My team started C4Net. We seed funded the organisation and started it up many, many years ago. And then we've also done some funding for the ESP project itself. And really this was meant to be the landmark or the groundbreaking project for this organisation, really seeking to look at energy and the energy sector from a completely new perspective.
So in future energy planning, what happens at the moment is the transmission and generation system is largely planned separately to the distribution system. So we've got 13 distribution systems connecting into the transmission and generation system, largely independently planning for their needs. There is an opportunity to co-optimise across the two by planning together.
If you look at what will happen to the energy system in Victoria across the next 20 or 30 years, can we imagine the future, but not just from a kind of philosophical perspective, also from a really quantitative and engineering perspective, and then try to understand what the future could look like, what futures perhaps we could expect, what futures we could possibly drive, and eventually how would you get there? Can you plan? Can you create incentives? What is the role of consumers moving forward? Everything we did was linked somehow to electric vehicles, electric heat pumps and all that. So really new technologies that will transform the energy systems that will be effectively located at consumers' premises, in our homes.
This plan helps us to identify what the opportunities are, how to best manage the system. We could save $4.1 billion from properly managing the distributed energy that's out there to help deliver modern energy in a modern way.
So in the ESP, we as networks have been supporting the project as a key partner, effectively providing data on our networks, insights from customers, what they're seeing today, and providing that level of subject matter expertise to support researchers and steering the project as well, so understanding what those results we see and sort of sharing in the outputs.
We're really relying on transmission to do the heavy lifting at the moment, whereas I think the distribution network has a unique opportunity to build the infrastructure faster, potentially lower cost. It's closer to load centres, so by planning the whole of system together with transmission, we're really making sure we've got the timing of the infrastructure required at the right time, at the right cost for our customers.
Yes, sometimes there could be collaboration between industry and academia, industry and government, or academia and government, but this huge involvement of many participants and stakeholders, I think this is one of the unique feature of the CSP.
If we're not leveraging the distribution systems, we're not going to get the most out of the energy transition. And from a consumer perspective, this should be the first thing we focus on, because it's about energy equity and it's about energy availability.
The distribution is key. We are that last point of touch with customers. We are fundamentally meeting their needs for energy in the future, and the fact that that is changing and evolving at quite a pace, I think is really exciting for the industry. It's a challenge, but it's a great opportunity.
So distribution networks are not being designed for this flexibility on the demand side and also to accommodate generation, because the network starts seeing so much activity, again, particularly in terms of generation that we see in distributions, then it is unthinkable they would keep planning the electricity system only looking at large-scale generation.
The distribution system is no longer a passive one-way taker of electrons. More and more households have become generators in and of themselves. Again, 1 in 3 Victorian households, 30,000 batteries thereabouts on the ground, a commitment to another 1 million from the federal program. And so really, if you're not looking at it in a whole of system approach in this sort of modern evolution of the energy market, then you're not going to get the best outcomes.
Distribution networks effectively have been operated and designed in a passive way with no local generation and no flexible consumption for about under 20 years. And then in the last 10 or 20 years, we're seeing all this active generation and the flexible consumption coming into the grid. Effectively, we are called these distribution networks for basically more than 100 years. And now we're starting calling them distribution systems, where system fundamentally indicates this idea that there are lots of active entities on the generation side or on the demand side within the network. It's no longer a passive network, it is actually an active system.
A good outcome of ESP is that narrative that collaboration, whole of system planning is really important. That change I think I would like to see is that broader collaboration baked in for the long term. I think for a long period of time we've looked at our individual silos. It's breaking those silos down, making sure we're assessing needs of customers from a best outcome perspective, whatever that solution may be, whether that's a non-network solution, a distribution network solution, or even a transmission network solution.
So having that partnership between academia and industry has been a really unique aspect of the approach, and it's great because it gives that theoretical grounding, but that's also been shaped by industry.
It was a unique opportunity for universities to work very closely with industry partners on on a topic of major relevance, the transformation of the distribution network. In addition to that, there was also an opportunity to collaborate with other colleagues from other universities. We do not see such opportunities where at scale and with a very large project and let's say big idea actually can collaborate with both industry and academia. So it was really a unique opportunity for us.
I think SAFERnet has been amazing at being visionary in what it does, to sort of bring together these disparate groups of people to focus on one thing, and doing that balancing act has always been really challenging. It still is.
So we've had detailed collaboration across a number of universities, a number of governments at state and federal level, and the market operator and research groups and DNSPs and other industry representatives, consumer bodies and so on. That all coming together is a really unique thing that's helped deliver the ESP in the form that it has. There wasn't a playbook. We couldn't go and take this off the shelf from somewhere else around the world. We actually had to come up with the foundational methodologies and address those in a systematic way. What is unique about it is then it's not only thinking of those methodologies and how they can be applied, but integrating them into the existing planning system.
The key takeaway from the report is that we need to be making diligent, fact-based analysis. So I think the challenge we may have is the risk of taking a top-down approach, wanting to dictate an outcome without necessarily knowing what the unintended consequences of that action may be. This work has really shown what distribution can do, and I think this is where we need to pivot ourselves to a bottom-up approach rather than a top-down approach, looking at all the options, looking at both potential intended and unintended consequences to ensure we deliver the best outcomes for our customers.
So what's great and important about this project isn't that it solves the problem. It starts to work to solve the problem. It creates a building block and a foundation so that over time, distribution networks can get better and better at the planning they need to do.
There is a huge opportunity for the distribution system to be more actively managed, better planned for, and that distributed energy resources better utilised to unlock that value and ensure that we're not investing far more in the distribution network than we really need if we were just to use everything far more efficiently.
There's also, importantly, what we've seen within the ESP program is that actually there's ways to speed things up as well by addressing some of the current barriers that are there in connections in the transmission system by connecting more rapidly into the distribution system.
So I think the main takeaway for governments is that the consumer electricity future, the consumer energy future is made better by better planning. It can be more affordable and deliver the system that people want.
What we did from the very beginning was to try to develop tools that could be implemented straight away. We defined clear roadmaps for industry and possibly the government also to implement, to see the transformation that we would like to see. So I would really hope that industry and the government will take up our recommendations and hopefully also use the tools that we developed, or at least to start from the tools that we developed and then move forward with their own tools.
Victoria is really unique in having so many smart meters on the ground, and it gives us this really rich understanding of our low voltage distribution network, to have the visibility of what is happening at that level. What is the impact of people changing over their heating from gas to electricity in Victoria to help save money? What is the impact of then putting a solar system on the roof and buying an electric vehicle? How do we manage that actively, but also how do we unlock the opportunities that are within that?
I think Australia is in such a privileged position in that we are small enough to trial really unusual and difficult things, but we're big enough for it to be, we can experience it or we can test it at scale. When we deliver something like the ESP, which gives you good principles, the basics, it gives you outputs, and it shows where the advantages are, we've effectively done an at-scale pilot. We've done a demonstration, and we can take this to the world.
I think personally the exciting thing next is how do we coordinate all of that to deliver some of the benefits that the Enhanced System Plan has highlighted. I would love to see a world in which we're not just talking about transmission renewable energy zones anymore, but we're talking about distribution renewable energy zones, where you can really unlock generation and the network support services that solar and batteries and electric vehicles could provide to sell that into the market. And offset the need for some of the larger scale stuff when people are already investing in this, and it's got so much value.
The exciting part is that how these intermittency and balancing of renewable generation will be mitigated by the storage, electric vehicles, and new other technologies like microgrids, virtual power plants, peer-to-peer energy trading. So how those challenges will be mitigated by the new technologies, I think this is exciting as an engineer.
Looking across the report and of the findings, it's a really wholesome group of detailed roadmap of not only what can be achieved, but how to achieve it and how to roll it out. What we need is someone to pick up the cudgels now and to go and do that.